Drew, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Dennis.
Man, you brought out a couple nice cars today, didn't you?
That's why I'm doing great.
That's why you're
Ferrari,
doing
Mercedes, how can you not be doing
How
great?
could you go wrong? Well, now, and these are kind of, well, you like all cars, I know, but these kind of touring cars are ones you really prefer.
It's always fun to have a couple that you can go out and do some touring events with, and these are two of those candidates that we really do enjoy doing a lot of driving with.
Yeah, and there's more of those kind of events, I think, coming about these days, and I think they're great because these are beautiful cars sitting still, but man, they're fabulous to drive, and it's so good to see them on the road that I'm glad people are taking them out. And this is truly an iconic car, the Gullwing Mercedes, a 300 SL. This is a 55, correct?
This is 55, very first year of production. This car was actually born as a competition model first. And that's what's responsible really for the Gullwing doors, in that you have a huge piece of chassis sort of stiffening that goes down the side of the car that required the doors to be made in that configuration.
Well, I think it's a beautiful dash, because I think German dashes can tend to be pretty austere. And this one still, I mean, it's as you said, I mean, it's all function.
Very typical of the time of European sports cars. They were very much designed for knowledgeable drivers. You don't see names on knobs that tells you this what this does or that one what that does.
You're just supposed to know.
They very much expected you to read and commit to memory your owner's manual. As you know, all European sports cars come with toolkits. They were destined to be very much an interactive part of the life of the owner.
Now these had some curious features, and one was there's a steering wheel trick on these, isn't there?
Yeah, again with the large sills that were here, in that functional aspect of German engineering, they actually ended up putting together a sort of a tilt-away breakaway steering wheel that assisted the entry and exit
kind of slide
a
in
little bit
under
easier,
it and
right?
bring it up. Huh?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so what powers the Gullwing?
Gullwing's powered by a 3-liter, actually inline 6.
And it's a slant mounted engine. It's
right.
Yes?
It's an inline 6, but they actually have it over at a bit of an angle. And again, the relief inside the hood was to clear this cam cover here. But you can see that very unusual bracing structure.
Man. Is it rigid? I mean, is it a pretty stiff car?
Oh, extremely so. Yeah, you can take up one corner of the car and the whole side will come up.
I like the placement of the distributor. I mean, it's right there for you, but boy, you have to kind of get down to the plugs a little bit.
Well, the other unique element of the 300 SL Mercedes Gullwing is that it was also the first production vehicle that actually had direct port fuel injection into the combustion chamber.
So this performs pretty much like you'd anticipate a 300 SL would perform.
Very much so. It is sort of the definitive Mercedes feel, sort of bulletproof and solid, and you know, just runs kind of that Sherman tank mentality. You're just not going to kill it. It's a lot of fun to drive. A huge amount of sort of, again, that linear power band that just goes all the way through. It is a 4-speed. You know, I tell you, when you get out on the road touring events and things like that, you're always wishing that you could maybe grab one more gear, you know. But it's a fun car.
Drew, I've never driven one of these. I have never driven one of these.
Yet.
Yeah.
Is that the word you're
That's
looking for?
That's the word I'm looking for.
I thought so.
Well, close her up. Let's take this baby out.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome back to My Classic Car. No trip? Ready? So have you been a car guy your whole life? I mean, did you kind of grow up in that era, or how did you get the bug?
Oh God, yeah, born with it. Doing little matchbox cars and having to get my folks to pull over every 2 seconds and, you know, go climb on the tractors that were parked next to the road. And, actually, my first really experience that had got me really hooked on cars was I had a buddy of mine. One day, well, we'll see. Maybe not better, but different.
All right, stay close. We're about to go for a spin in the Ferrari. Welcome back to My Classic Car.
There's nothing quite like that song of the Ferrari exhaust at that, you know, 6,500 RPM and up. Makes you really want to hear it every single time you shift. You want to hear it. Give me the sound. Give me the sound. Give me the sound. It's very addictive that way.
Boy, it is a fabulous sound, though. There's nothing quite like it. And the 250, it's the displacement of a single cylinder, right?
Correct.
And so times 12, it's a 3-liter engine.
Correct. This is a 3-liter Colombo engine.
And with Ferraris, every number means something.
Yes, there's always been some association somehow. Up until recently, it always typically had to do with the engine in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And then it became something to do with sort of the heritage of the car, the number of years that were in production, but the number designation always has a connection.
It's like a 308 is a 3.08 cylinder.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. The 355, of course, with the 5 valves per cylinder.
Ah, okay.
So there's always been a correlation somehow.
And these really, even with the 250, these were all basically hand built, weren't they?
Oh yeah, yeah. Every single panel in the car has an actual manufacturing number on it. I believe this car, the number is 277. So all the panels on the car, somewhere, if you look closely enough, even the smallest little brackets will have a 277 pounded into them.
And one from 276, a piece from 276 won't fit this car.
Won't even begin to fit on this car.
That was 276, man. This is 277. This, though, is a fun little get-around car. I mean, this thing would be, in Southern California, blasted up and down PCH, this would be awesome. Now, have you owned a few Ferraris in your time?
Yeah, we are Ferrari junkies. Sometimes you'll be wearing your Ferrari, your Scuderia Shield shirt or something like that. Somebody says, well, which Ferrari do you have? And you always have to kind of go,
well,
because you're always a little embarrassed to go, well, it's one of these and those and this and that. And if they didn't think you were sort of an arrogant idiot before,
they certainly do that.
Do afterwards. They go, you're one of those.
Oh man, what a day. A Gullwing Mercedes and a 250 GT Ferrari, I died and gone to heaven. Drew's got such great cars. If he'd let me come back, there's so many more, I think we could have another good time. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Do it.
But now it's Ferrari time.